The Minutemen are seen as the most boring of the factions in Fallout 4. They take the yes man route in order to make it so you can always beat the main story, but instead of a relentlessly positive robot who lets you do what you want, we got a depressed reenactor who's trying to get us to join his building firm. Now, on behalf of all depressed people, I just want to say that Preston does not represent us. The vast majority of us are far too busy with constant exhaustion or existential dread to even think about becoming contractors. The Minutemen in Fallout 4 aren't all that interesting to side with, but that doesn't mean they're a lost cause as a faction. There's a fair few changes that will need to take place, but that's exactly what this video will focus on. I want the Minutemen back for my Fallout game, and I'm confident I can make them a fun faction to side with. To save time here, I'm not going to go over the full history of the faction, as I'm sure most of you already know the general gist of things from Fallout 4. Instead, I'm going to start their story from the next major event, the death of Preston Garvey. That's right, I'm killing off Pristine Gravy. It has to be done. My Fallout game, Raiders of New York, takes place 20 years after the events of Fallout 4. Preston's death would take place a few years before my game starts. He will have been in the Commonwealth, working with the Minutemen, telling every passerby about a settlement that needs their help, and then a familiar face shows up. He welcomes this figure with open arms, but they meet his greeting with a 44, pointing it at his head and pulling the trigger. The unexpected attack sends the Minutemen into disarray. The settlement Preston was at is razed to the ground, and the traitor takes their followers out of the Commonwealth, heading to New York. News quickly spreads throughout the Minutemen of this terrible event, but a response is lacking. The organisation has built up somewhat over the years, but this has led to a level of bureaucracy which slows things down. Bickering over who should lead the faction and which settlements need rebuilding or support first led to nothing getting done, and the perpetrators of the chaos escaping with ease. Over the next few years, the Minutemen return to their role of defending the Commonwealth, but their leader never forgets what took place, bearing a personal grudge against the one who killed Preston. When a force of raiders from the west begin harassing the edges of Minutemen defended lands, the leader is finally able to convince his comrades that they should perform a counterattack and expand their territory. He leads a small band of Minutemen to establish a base to the west and hunt down the raiders who have been causing problems. They find them outside of an old world amusement park and launch into an attack instantly. It's clear that they're going to win, but then a stranger shows up on the edge of the battlefield. The Minutemen leader calls out to them, asking for assistance. Whether or not help is provided would all come down to you. This is where you as the player character meet up with the Minutemen. Right at the start of the game, they are fighting against the Nuka World Raiders, see last video, and it's your choice as to whether or not you help them out. Let's first run through how the game would play if you chose to side with them at the start, and stick with them throughout the game. So initially you may help the Minutemen with fighting the Nuka World Raiders, wiping them out and proving yourselves as a friend to the faction. Or maybe you don't get involved in the fight. As long as you don't side with the Raiders, the Minutemen will be friendly towards you. After the fighting is done, the leader of a faction approaches you and tries to enlist your help. The Minutemen are here to help, they say. Agree to join them and they'll tell you where their outpost is located, and tell you to stop by if you want to see what you can do. The location in question is to the east, the Peaked Mountain Reservation, a fairly desolate area of wilderness which the Minutemen have created a temporary outpost at. Talk again to the leader and he tells you there are two reasons they've headed west. The first is to help wastelanders build up the land into something they can comfortably live in and defend. The second is a personal mission, to hunt down the one who killed Preston and enact revenge. While the faction as a whole is focused on the former goal, the leader really only cares about the latter right now. It will be your choice how much you want to get involved on the settlement side of things. There will be characters you can talk to in order to hear about nearby potential settlements, and people who need your help. The more you help out with these things, the stronger the Minutemen become, turning them from a band of a couple of dozen hopefuls to a formidable army, larger than any raider gang on the map. This would make the final battle an easy one. March in with superior numbers and take Liberty Island with ease. Or you can forgo the settlement side of things and go with the leader's revenge plan, focusing entirely on going straight to the island and trying to kill the guy on top. This would be the hardest way to win the game, of all of them, as you and a half dozen Minutemen try and find a way to the most deadly place around, But this would still be an option, and I think it could be a fun challenge for those who like a real challenge in their game. What would most likely happen though would be a bit of a balance. Complete some side missions, take over a handful of settlements and build up support until you think you're strong enough to take on the endgame boss. As you can see, a Minutemen playthrough would still have plenty of the same occurring, but with a bit more player choice, and I'd also want to make a few significant changes to the settlement system. First up is that settlements would have dedicated roles available for the settlers. Quartermaster, Constructor, and Master Merchant would be open vacancies for every settlement. Assign a settler to the role and they help run the settlement for you. The Quartermaster would be in charge of defending the area, through building turrets, giving settlers weapons, and crafting armour. The Constructor would ensure basic requirements were met: water purifiers, beds, a food garden, that sort of essential stuff to keep everyone happy. Finally, the Master Merchant would be all about money. They generate some passive income for the settlement. You can take this money for yourself when you return, but the settlers won't be happy about it. Or it could be directed towards improving the settlement in various ways, or even in trade missions to gain extra supplies. With these management roles, you wouldn't have to do everything yourself to get a settlement built up, although you would of course still be allowed to do as much building as you want. I'd also make a few minor changes to the settlement system, such as them actually being able to win a defensive battle without your intervention! Crazy, right? I'd also have it so your personal standing within the Minutemen increasing as more settlements are formed, and happiness changing how helpful the settlement is. A low happiness value would lead to reduced production, as farmers let the odd crop die, builders take extra time and resources to construct anything, and some settlers even abandon the place if happiness is low enough. When particularly high though, settlers may give you gifts, would yield additional resources, and basically just everything would work perfectly. Alright, enough about being friendly with the Minutemen. What if you want to finally wipe them out? Well, you could do so whenever you wanted. If you side with them and betray them though, do keep in mind they'd have everything you helped build up to defend against you. The best time to side against them would be right at the start of a game. If you attack them outside Nuka World, then you'll become an enemy of the faction. They will try to retreat from the fight, although you can try and wipe them all out. This would be tricky though, as you'd be with starting game gear, trying to beat a challenging foe. Whether or not you manage to kill the ones assaulting the Nuka World raiders, you'll still need to head to the Peaked Mountains to fully wipe them out. The outpost there would be a challenging early game fight, but make it there and manage to kill them all and the faction would be no more. Nice and simple. You probably want to know who it is you're siding with / killing though, so let's go over the main characters within the faction. First off is the leader of the group, Alistair Garvey. He is the son of Preston Garvey and is fully motivated by avenging the death of his father. Still just a teenager, this young leader is headstrong and overconfident. While taught his values and beliefs by his father back when he was still alive, his wide-eyed optimism has been somewhat expunged by his personal tragedy. He still believes in the Minutemen, and will do what is right for them if those around him keep him on the straight and narrow, but it will only take a gentle nudge for him to focus solely on vengeance. The choice between doing what is good for everyone else and what he personally desires gives a constant inner conflict to this youth. Someone who suffers no great moral dilemma is Emmett. This familiar face was featured in my Fallout card game video, and he's just a chill dude looking to play some cards. If you want to learn more about all that, go and watch the card game video, as I actually made a fully playable card game. Like, for real. I played it with people. It exists. It's crazy. Watch it. The only thing I didn't include in that video was a name for the card game, as I left that to the comments. My favourite I've seen so far comes from Against All Odds, who suggested Battle for the Wasteland, so I think I'll go with that. Emmett's whole deal is really just being a super fan of this game, and he would introduce the player character to it in a friendly way, and send you out on card game related quests. Or you'd kill him and loot a bunch of cool cards from his body. On to my first canon couple within the game, Lexi and Jada. Despite seeming like polar opposites, these two are inseparable. Lexi is incredibly kind-hearted and sweet, always wanting to do whatever she can to help people. Jada, on the other hand, is a military hard-ass, tough and regimented, rarely ever cracking a smile. She trains up new Minutemen recruits, putting them through their paces until they're tough enough to survive real combat. Those who are less suited to fighting end up under the comforting wing of Lexi, who will help train them as builders, farmers, or whatever other more peaceful life suits them. Together the pair cover all the training needs the faction have, each excelling in their own specific way. No matter their methods, it's clear that they each care deeply about the Minutemen, believing them to be the best way to create a safer wasteland for everyone. Ultimately, what drives them both forward is making the world a better place, and together, they'll do what it takes to achieve this goal. That's enough talking about the people who make up the Minutemen. Let's talk a little about what cool gear they have available to them. First up is the returning weapon, laser muskets. These items will only be carried and sold by Minutemen members, so if you're a fan of this from Fallout 4, then you'll need to deal with the Minutemen one way or another to get them. I would also make a significant change to this weapon by making it a lot more accurate. With such a slow charge up time, it's never fun to miss your shot, so a large boost to accuracy would make this a far more viable weapon. Onto a few uniques now, starting with Lexi's outfit, known as the Builder's Coveralls. This outfit will reduce crafting and construction costs, great for anyone who's handy. The long way to get this item would be to help out Lexi with all of her side quests, finally getting the outfit once she has nothing left to teach you. The short way to get it would be to kill her and loot the outfit from her corpse. The next pair of uniques are what Alistair is wearing. The Minutemen General's armour is a familiar item with an altered effect, offering +3 to charisma in this game. Preston's hat is, and you won't believe this, but the hat that Preston Garvey used to wear. Crazy, right? His son now dons it, and, once he has tasted vengeance, he'll pass the hat on to you, giving you double reload speed. Or you could get it by killing him. After all, that is how you'd get the armour, so 2 for 1 on his corpse. I think I should probably wrap things up there for this video. Honestly, I'm not expecting too many of you to have stuck around for a video that focuses on the Minutemen, but if you have, thank you! Let me know what other changes you think could improve the Minutemen as a faction, and get ready for another video in the series next week. Unless I get into another bad depressive spell! But fingers crossed there's going to be at least a few more episodes before that happens again. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.